There is some intrigue on the back end for Winnipeg. There are certainly more than 3 players worthy of protection, but at the same time, there is no case to make to shift from the typical 7F3D, 1G strategy to 8 skaters and a goalie. In terms of the obvious ones to protect, it's Pionk and Morrissey. Those two logged heavy minutes all season while contributing a good chunk of the team's offensive production. Morrissey is already signed long-term through 2028, and it seems likely at this point that Cheveldayoff will try to get Pionk, who is arbitration eligible for the first time, locked up to a long-term deal as well. That leaves one spot for everyone else. DeMello's absence was certainly felt after exiting the series quickly against the Canadiens. While he doesn't put up many points or even log a lot of minutes, he is a stabilizing defensive presence and penalty killer on a defense core that is often shaky in their own zone. That's why they handed him a 4-year, $12 million contract last fall, and it's unlikely their opinion of him has changed much in the last 9 months. He's clearly someone that they want around for a while. Having said that, in this cap environment, would a $3 million AAV for someone who typically plays third-pairing minutes be enough to scare Seattle off to the point where not protecting him could be viable? That question is what Winnipeg will be considering when it comes to Stanley. The 23-year-old just made his NHL debut this season, but he has been on an NHL contract for 3 years, making him eligible for selection. The 2016 first-round pick, 16th overall, had a limited role, but blueliners often develop slower than forwards, and given his size, the learning curve was a bit steeper. If the Jets believe he's capable of playing himself into a more prominent role over the next couple of years, it would be tough to risk losing him for nothing. And from Kraken GM Ron Francis's perspective, Stanley is exactly the type of young player to either take a flyer on to develop or to flip in another trade. Beaulieu and Niku are also worth a mention. Beaulieu has been serviceable on the third pairing for the last few years, and with a $1.25 million cap hit, he's someone that could be picked and flipped. Niku dominated in the All in 2017-18 with 54 points in 76 games and was productive in shorter stints the last couple of years. However, he hasn't had much of an NHL opportunity yet and is someone that has been a prime change of scenery candidate for a while. His $725,000 cap hit will also be below the NHL minimum salary next season, $750,000, which could also be appealing. Up front, Little looked like someone who would likely be protected just a couple of years ago, but he hasn't played since suffering a perforated eardrum back in November of 2019. While his injury hasn't been confirmed to be career-ending, that could still change, which could render him exempt from selection. Winnipeg's other top 6 forwards that are under contract should be locks for protection, and after Lowry inked a 5-year, $16.25 million extension back in April, it's a safe assumption that one of the remaining slots will be his. That leaves one spot and a couple of viable options in Lowry's linemates on Winnipeg's third line. Copp had shown flashes of offensive improvement over the previous few seasons, but took that to another level this year, setting career highs in goals, 15, assists, 24, points, 39, and ATOI, 18-15. Whenever injuries struck, Copp was often the one to move up in the lineup while playing the wing or down the middle when needed. That type of versatile player is critical for teams to have, and while he's set to earn a raise from his $2.3 million qualifying offer in restricted free agency this summer in his final season of arbitration eligibility, it's a price that Winnipeg, or Seattle, if he's ultimately made available, would happily be willing to pay. The other part of that trio is Appleton, whose track record isn't quite as long. The 25-year-old was a full-time NHL player for the first time this season, and he was fairly productive in a limited role, notching 12 goals and 13 assists in 56 games. Of those 25 points, all but one came at even strength. 5-on-5 scoring is always highly coveted, and the early indication is that Appleton is a capable contributor in that regard. He also only has a $900,000 cap hit through next season, and productive low-cost depth is hard to come by. Being only able to protect one of Copp or Appleton will hurt. While some teams will be losing veteran talent, it certainly feels like Winnipeg will be losing one of their younger regulars as their roster currently stands. Appleton looks like a promising late bloomer, and after being viewed as a potential bust, Stanley took an important step forward in his development this season and should be part of their future plans now. Is that enough for Cheveldayoff to make another side deal? He has roughly 6 weeks to make that decision.